I grew up in a Marwadi Banya family, right? So the finance is in our blood.
How did that shift happen from managing fixed income to the entire banking segment?
I mean, it was interesting because, as being part of the markets throughout of my life, we've just traded markets.
Could you tell us about a few defining moments?
We were pretty late in the game. All the big banks were already present there. And I had a very clear objective that I want to reach a certain number of revenue. And in 2019, we actually reached that.
Can you tell us about some key leadership lessons?
One thing I always admire about anybody is intellectual honesty.
So you worked with so many institutional clients, so many high net worth individuals. What are some important or key money habits which have made them successful?
In life, everything is about compounding. Compounding comes with years. We used to say that, rather than timing the market, focus on time in the market, right?
Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Happy Hour with FinCocktail. Our guest today has lived the global finance dream. He joined DSP Merrill Lynch and stayed on for 24 years. He headed the Southeast Asia and South Asia desks, where he managed 1,800 employees across 5 different countries. He is currently the CEO at Quest Investment Advisors, which is a boutique portfolio management firm. Please welcome Raj Singhal. Welcome to the show, Raj. I'm so glad that we can do this today.
Thank you, Niyati, for inviting me to the show, and I'm super excited to be part of this.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, Raj, tell us something about your early days. What really sparked that interest in finance, and how did that turn into being this global finance career?
So, I grew up in a Marwadi Banya family, right? So the finance is in our blood. That's how, and I grew up in a business family, of course. So the interest in money and business was always there. I did go to engineering college, but frankly, my idea to go to engineering college was that education will suffice to probably get me a loan from a bank and to start my business. Of course, that didn't happen, and then I went into my MBA and the corporate world and stayed on for too long a period.
So you spent nearly 24 years with DSP Merrill Lynch. While they changed a lot of different names and forms and sizes, you stayed on. Tell us a little bit about your career over there.
So I joined DSP Merrill Lynch in 1996, straight out of campus. I joined the fixed income desk and that I remained with the fixed income business almost all of my life, right? So, we started our trading business in DSP Merrill Lynch in 1999 with the license of primary dealership, basically, which gives us a license to trade government securities. Okay. Did that. Then in 2006, Merrill Lynch bought over DSP, right? So, Hemendra Bhai sold his large part of the equity to Merrill Lynch and it became a global firm. And in 2009, we all know what happened, right?
Yeah,
global financial crisis. Frankly, a very interesting story I want to tell because we had applied for a banking license at DSP Merrill Lynch because we wanted to become a bank in India, and we had applied for a banking license. And when this story came out over the weekend, I called up my CFO and I told him we've got the banking license, and he was surprised because we probably the news just broke out. And I said, Bank of America just bought over us, and now so we'll be bank.
Yeah.
So then we all became part of the Bank of America, and since our business was more into treasury related, we all moved to the banking side. And then in 2012, my boss, who was my immediate boss, he quit to join some hedge fund. Then my big boss, he called me to ask me that if I will be interested to move to Hong Kong to set up the Southeast Asia business. So it was a great opportunity for me, which I did country by country, Singapore, Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, and last I was working on Philippines.
Wow.
And my last role, so while throughout all this period I remained with fixed income, which is basically trading rates and FX, my last role was I was given the responsibility of to be the country executive for whole of Southeast Asia. So which basically means the whole banking business, including investment banking, commercial banking, corporate banking, and markets business.
How did that shift happen from just managing fixed income to the entire banking segment?
I mean, it was interesting because, as being part of the markets throughout of my life, we've just traded markets. While I always used to love talking to clients because, talking to clients, you always learn something. So I, of course, used to meet a lot of clients and used to do a lot of trips and visits to meet them. But to understand a very different part of the business, which is, we used to do a lot of course, Bank of America is big in corporate banking. Bank of America is, of course, big in investment banking as well. To learn all of that across a region gave me a, big perspective on, what those actually businesses mean and what it takes to run those businesses. So it was, I mean, it was very exciting.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So, if you can think back, could you tell us about a few defining moments during your stint as the head of Southeast Asia?
I mean, one of the thing which I still remember and take a huge pride in that was when we started our Indonesia business. We were pretty late in the game. All the big banks were already present there, and we were trying to figure out to start the fixed income business in Indonesia, while the bank always had a branch and was doing some of the other activities there. So we started that business in 2016, and as I said, we were pretty late to that. And I had a very clear objective that I want to reach a certain number of revenue, which was done by the one of the large banks already at that time in Indonesia. And I said, I want to probably reach that revenue in my career, and that was my objective. And in 2019 we actually reached that. So it because you build that business from scratch, you
Yeah.
hired everybody in the team, you started the business, and to reach to a level where you actually wanted to be. I still feel very proud of
Proud.
it, the kind of people we put in. There was a guy whom we hired as a summer intern. He joined as an analyst, and he's now managing director at bank.
Wow.
To be part of that business, it just feels good about some of the
Being,
decisions you take,
yeah,
which actually end up showing results. So
that's
that was
amazing.
big for me. Yeah.
Great. So you speak so passionately about your career, but you decided to make a little bit of a switch from the global investment banking business to a boutique investment advisory firm, which you're now the CEO of,
Yeah.
Quest Investment. How did that switch happen? And what led you to make that decision?
So actually, in between, I did a startup as well.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. So when I quit the bank in Jan 2020, just before COVID, and we were actually looking to move back to India even then. But my daughter was in 10th grade, and she
so
wanted to
where were you
finish.
based out of at that
I
point of
was
time?
I was in Hong Kong.
Hong
So we
Kong.
were in Hong Kong for 10 odd years.
Okay.
My daughter wanted to finish a school, and then we decided, okay, let's do that. We had a great time in Hong Kong. And but so while being there remote during COVID, of course everybody used to work remote. I got along with two of my ex-colleagues from DSP days, and we brainstormed, and we had this startup idea which we implemented, and we started a company in July 2020. So we hired everybody
Right in the
remote.
middle of COVID.
We built the company remote. We did everything remote because I was there in Hong Kong. I visited, of course, twice to Mumbai. These guys were in Mumbai but operating out of their homes.
Homes.
So we were at one point we had about 17, 18 employees. Out of that, about 10 odd were
And
engineers.
what was this business?
So it was very interesting concept. The it was called Multiply, not multiply, Multiply.
Pie.
And the idea behind Multiply was that we created a community for investors.
Okay.
So it was a social network for investors, and you can think of it
Like an
like
Instagram for
no,
investors.
Twitter for investing. So you can think
Twitter
of it
for
like a Twitter for
investing.
investing, and we build very interesting features, right? So we build, you can of course follow each other. You can share your portfolio. You can share your trades. So as soon as because you connect with your broker, and whenever that you have done a trade, we get to know, and we will show it after the market close. And that idea came out of our interaction with regulator, and and then you can have a discussion around it, and probably it will prompt you to trade as well. So we launched our app in October 2021, and in 6 months we had about 100,000 downloads.
Wow.
The interesting part of the business was that it was a retail, right? It was a tech. While I'm an engineer, but my engineering was way
Long,
back,
long.
so I'm no more an engineer.
Yeah.
So we had to do retail, we had to do tech, which was not we were. I was doing institutional business. All of us, three of us, came from institutional background. So to build that business, I mean, I think that was very exciting for us. And then, we had interactions with, we were doing some B2B collaborations with HDFC and ICICI, and both were showing interest in, buying the business. And then we ultimately decided to sell it to ICICI Direct in July 2022. So exact 2 years,
Wow.
we've ended up selling the business. So yeah, it was very exciting for us to build the whole thing, hire people, how to hire a tech guy, because we couldn't understand those
Yes.
those languages, right?
And tech would have changed so much since
You know what?
your days of
No,
studying.
mine was in metallurgy. Metallurgy, I did metallurgy, which was never a, it
Yeah,
was
you
more a
can't
art and
exactly.
science.
Yeah.
So this was what software language to use to
Yeah.
build your app. It should be both Android and iPhone compatible. We
Correct.
picked up a language called Flutter, which was very new. Now to hire people who knew under that language is also difficult, and
Absolutely.
that was a time where tech was booming.
Yeah.
So the people were highly in demand. So to hire people for a startup, which by us, because we didn't come from a startup background,
Right.
we were not too young at that time. So it was very interesting. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
And how did then Quest investment happen
Yeah,
for you?
so Quest, very interesting. I knew Ajay Bhai. Ajay Bhai is our founder of the company. The company Quest, just to give a background, Quest has been in the market since '92. So we have been doing in this business for about 33 odd years. We launched our PMS in 2007. So we happened to meet at a friend's son's wedding, and he was asking me, "Kya kar rahe ho? What are you doing?" I said, trying to figure out what to do." So he said, since you have time, can you help me? I'm looking for a partner. Can you help me find a partner? I told Ajay Bhai, I'm not a banker, But he said, but your friends are bankers.
Yeah.
"ठीक है, Ajay Bhai, you're a very nice guy, and of course I would want to help you. Let me help you."
Right.
And then I started looking at Quest, and then suddenly, I thought, this looks like an interesting opportunity. Even why shouldn't I look at it, right? Because I was trying to figure out what to do next. I had some idea of trying to raise money on the credit fund side, high yield credit strategies. And, I thought, probably I should get involved here, and maybe we can do that same thing here. And then I, of course, came and spoke to Ajay Bhai, and that, Ajay Bhai, I can be the partner here. And of course, he, was super happy to get me on board. And while I got involved from July 23 onwards, officially I joined from Jan 2024. So took over as CEO. And Ajay Bhai was super happy to stay outside, and he said, let me do what I enjoy, and let you do let you manage this. So that's how,
Absolutely. Great, great. That's
yeah,
such an amazing
yeah,
story.
yeah.
So now you've spent so much time in so many different cultures across different countries, in various kind of roles. Can you tell us about some key leadership lessons that you have learned along the way?
Yeah, so one thing I want to tell people about, I mean, literally, I've stayed all most of my life in India, and then in 10 years in Hong Kong, and those 10 years were very beautiful. When you are in India, I call it a kup mandup, right? You're just within yourselves. You're not thinking very
Globally.
globally, or. And I think it just opens up your mind, first of all. When you realize that things are all same. I mean, people are people.
Right.
Human beings are human beings.
Absolutely.
They all are same. And of course, they come from different backgrounds, so you have to be careful. One thing I used to always tell my team outside India is that, please, whatever I'm telling you is what I'm telling you. Don't read between my lines.
Yeah.
I'll tell you.
Directly.
I'm telling you directly. So don't try to second guess me. Ask me if you have any questions. I've hired a lot of people in my life. Literally everybody in my team was, was hired by me, and we hire people here as well. One thing I always admire about anybody, and is intellectual honesty. You have to be honest to yourself first,
Absolutely.
and then same thing should reflect in your conversations as well. And when I say intellectual honesty, basically you should be able to speak your mind. Whatever it is,
Correct.
you're better off speaking up, because only when you speak up, the other person will understand you.
Yeah.
Why you are trying to guess the other guy, and the other guy is trying to guess you? Just speak up.
Yeah.
I mean, God has given us this way of speaking up, so
Right.
use that ability.
Right.
So intellectual honesty is something I always admire, and I always try to imbibe. The other thing I always, which is drawn from this only is transparency. I keep everything absolutely transparent with teams, and I expect the same from everybody. I, to an extent that, during my days at Bank of America, I used to share my self-evaluation form with my team down below, right? I
Yeah.
mean, to my own teammates, I used to share my self-evaluation, which I was for my boss,
Submitting it to your
to
boss.
my
Yeah.
boss, but I used to tell them, because the reason I used to do that is, what I'm telling my boss is a accumulation of the work you guys have done.
Yeah.
It's not just only what I have done, right? I mean, I have done probably little and you have done most of the work. I want to make sure that I've captured it properly,
Correct.
that your work is captured properly. Second, I also want to make sure that you understand what is top of my mind. So I used to, in last 4 5 years, I started doing that. I used to share with all my directs, and always used to ask for comments in terms of, you want to come back. So transparency is second. Third thing, which is more personally to me, I I like empathy a lot. So, I like those, ultimately, whether you're working, you may be colleagues, but you're human beings. So, and you're spending a lot of time in office. So I have a personal connect with your team members, which means basically if you want to go out, you can go out, or,
Right.
try and spend more time trying to make sure that they understand you well. So I think these are the things, I
Right.
like.
Just become more relatable to them.
Yes, yes, yes. The end result of all of this is that, trust gets built very easily,
Absolutely.
because they know that you are saying whatever you're saying is what you believe in. And secondly, they know that because, like, drawing from the example of sharing my own self-evaluation, they know that I'm valuing their work as well,
Correct.
right? So I think, those are the benefits.
Great, amazing. These are really valuable lessons, which I feel like everyone can benefit from if everyone had a good boss like you.
Trying my job, doing my job.
Anyway, moving a little bit away, what was your relationship with money in your early childhood, and how did that change over time?
Like most of us, we all come from, I would say, lower middle class background. While my family was doing business, and in those days, anybody who come from a business family was viewed as ye to thoda, amir aadmi hai.
Got
But
yeah.
the background was, of course, very, 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 middle class, lower middle class. And coming from, Marwadi, Baniya background, so money is always
Important.
important, right? Money is always good to have,
Yeah.
right? And what, you could see what are the good things, and of course good things in life comes from money. But I think over time, and I would say this is for everybody, I think their relation with money changes, right? Now I am a believer that you are a custodian of this, right? This doesn't belong to you. The other thing I'm surely believe in is that, while we all have reached to a stage that, frankly, our lifestyle is not going to change much, and for whatever lifestyle we are having, we don't need too much money. So in the end, actually, you will leave a lot of money behind. And I've read a very beautiful line which I tell everyone: the amount of bank balance you have when you die is the amount of extra work you have done.
Yeah.
Right.
So true.
So why do that extra work? That is it. And the thing about money is very funny. That you have to work hard. Basically, money has a negative value
Yeah.
beyond a point, because you have to work hard to make that money. Second, you have to work hard to
Hard
manage
work.
the money.
Yeah.
Third, you have to work hard to give it back.
Yeah.
So it's got a negative value only, right? But
Absolutely.
anyway, anyway, having said that,
This is a
of course,
nice perspective.
money is important, earn money, but that's not the most important thing in life. I
Yeah.
mean, right now I'm, in that stage. So my relation with money is now good. That I keep it at a kind of at a distance. It doesn't bother me much. It used to bother me earlier, of
Right.
course.
Right.
It doesn't bother me.
Could you tell us about a financial mistake that you may have made personally or professionally that you learned something from, or something that taught you a valuable lesson?
Yeah, so first and foremost, and this is most of the Indians do this, that we are overextended and overinvested in real estate. क्या करते हैं हम, पहला पैसा आता है हम
प्रॉपर्टी खरीद.
बिकॉज सब इजी है, इजी टू अंडरस्टैंड, खरीद लिया, एसेट है, देयर इज अ रियल थिंग, रियल एसेट इज
I don't think it's easy to understand more than it is like.
रियल है ना,
हाँ,
दैट्स व्हाई
real
कॉल्ड
है,
रियल
tangible है
एस्टेट.
कि हाँ.
तो खरीद
That's
लेते
what it is.
हैं, एंड आई प्रॉब्ली वेंट टू डीप इनटू इट.
Okay.
And of course, over a long term, maybe land probably is still okay. And land में managing problem है कि, you, you will not know it is yours
Correct.
till you sell it.
Correct.
So I was always over invested in real estate, and despite a lot of my friends telling me that I'm stupid, I remained stupid for too long. So I think that is one thing people should not do. The other thing is that I think equity as a asset class is a very beautiful asset class. It will always give you better return over a long period. So whether you are starting your career, whether you are middle of the career, whether you are at the end of the career, you should be mostly invested in equity markets. So lesson is that don't be too over invested in real estate. Invest in equity. But equity, of course, it's a very psychological game, right? Because
Yeah. And
right
right
now,
now
like for
it's really
example,
playing on our minds.
yeah. So you have to think long term. Now, whether you have that guts, if you have the guts, do it yourself. If you don't have the guts, give it to somebody. There are
Right.
enough people like us who are trying to do it, not too expensive.
Right.
So I think that's what I would say.
I definitely want to get a little bit more into this. But before that, so you worked with so many institutional clients, so many high net worth individuals, not just in India, across the globe.
Yeah.
What are some important or key money habits or, sort of mindsets that they have which have made them successful?
I think, and this is more I've realized after, starting looking at Quest when I've joined Quest. And I've met we recently met an investor who has been with us since 2010, and he had never met us.
What do you
Yeah,
say?
he never met us. He didn't bother.
He just gave the money
and I'm telling you, when I looked at the return and when we went to him, you have to show that as an example to people to understand
what
that
long-term investing is.
means. Because in life everything is about compounding, right? Compounding comes with years. It doesn't come overnight. So whether your career, whether your business, and same thing for investment, compounds only, you will only get that in that exponential growth over towards the last couple of years. For that
Right.
you have to stay on for those 10 years.
Yeah.
So I think the one thing they all do beautifully, and we have quite a few such investors with us, is they remain invested. So I think the time, rather than we used to say that rather than timing the market, focus on time in the market, right? So be in the market for long. Don't try to I feel like market is going to go down. You can sell, and I've done that. I've traded all my life, so I know how to trade. But you will sell. But can you buy at the time? No, can you know where the bottom is? Can you know where the top is? You cannot. So why bother? Either be invested in some of the the good stocks. And of course, you can churn, we can do whatever, or give it to a manager who is in a line with your thinking, and just stay invested. I think so. So coming back to your question, I think the one thing they all do is that they stay invested. They remain. They don't come back. They don't ask. They don't ask what's a navy. They don't even bother to look at. So I think that is one habit they have, which is very admirable, and which is what everybody need to learn.
Right.
Compounding is,
It's never going to happen otherwise.
And there is a reason why people say compounding is the eighth wonder.
Yeah.
Because it's actually the eighth wonder.
Yeah.
And it's a wonder because you don't realize it soon. You realize it later.
Yeah.
Right? It takes years to be part of it too. Same goes for business. Same goes for career. I keep telling people, first 5 years, you will not even know whether you actually have a business. Once you have crossed the 5th year, then you can know that you have a business. Your return will start coming only after 10th year, because that's where because you will keep investing, keep doing things.
Correct.
You will not be able to take return, but it's only towards the 10th year that you will start generating returns out of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. So how do you approach your personal finances? Are you like one of those people who's invested and then lets it compound over time, or do you actively manage it?
So till I was in Bank of America, I will not say very actively, but but I was
Trading.
because I was trading because I thought I know trading
Yeah.
because I used to trade, so I know that I know the game, but I never realized that it's a different game. But now I have of course become more long term investor. So right now we as a company philosophy, we don't buy individual stocks. So we basically put in our own funds, and we have a professional team which manages the money. But our thinking is also long term in nature. So I let that happen, and I'm more docile now. I mean, not very active. I'm I let the markets do the job, and I more focus on I would say allocation in terms of how much should be equities, how much should be fixed income. Though I'm realizing more and more that it should be equities.
Equities.
Yeah, and yeah. So I think from a more trading, I'm behaving more like an investor
Investor.
now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
It took
so,
me long years.
so if you were to sort of tell me what your investment philosophy was, personally and professionally,
Yeah.
how would you put that?
No, so let me focus on what our philosophy at Quest is, right?
Yeah.
Because that has come out of our own personal belief in it, right? Otherwise, it won't be there.
Absolutely.
And we're not trying to copy somebody else. It is our own belief. So we actually call it a Quest strategy, and where the first thing we look before buying a company is the quality of the management, quality of the business. That's where Q comes from. That's our that's our red line, right? If we think that we don't like the quality of the management, will not invest.
Right.
Or same goes for the quality of the business as well. Second is we have to understand the business, and that's where you
You.
come from. When I say understand the business, and I'll give you example, right? I mean, I'm just missing there's a gaming company which is listed in the market. I'm missing the name right now. We have looked at the company 4 5 times, but we could never understand how they make money. Now the company may be great, their business may be great. We don't understand it, so
Yeah.
we'll not buy it.
Correct.
So we have to understand the business, because like one of the top holdings, Zomato. It's not that we are against some new age thing.
It's just about understanding a particular business.
Yeah, we want to understand the business, the drivers of the business,
Correct.
right? Now the third part is that when we buy, we want to buy a company at the inflection of the earning, right? Where either we see that the earning is going to go through a trajectory which is not factored in right now, or the earning growth we are seeing that is going to grow at 20-25% earning over a long period of time. So that's where E comes from.
Okay.
Of course, we are in a risk business, so we want to make sure that we have a superior risk reward, and that's where S come from. That whatever we invest in, it has to fit into metrics of versus return versus risk, so that need. And third is T, which is we spoke about time
Time.
and time, right? Time the market, time. Here we have to time the market as well. We don't want to buy
And forget
a
about it.
business at any price.
Of course.
We want to buy business,
At the right price.
at the right price. So as Charlie Munger says, you're better off buying a good business at the right price rather than buying a fair business at a cheap price.
Ridiculously, yeah,
Yeah.
cheap price. Yeah.
So we are okay to buy at a right price, but we want to buy a good business. So I think this is our principle which we follow, and it's in this comes from our personal belief. So you can say that both personal or the
Professional, both.
yeah, it's
Go
all
hand in hand.
go hand in hand.
Okay. And what's your view on gold? Does it still merit a place in somebody's portfolio as a new age investor or somebody who's just started investing? Does gold still hold value in your portfolio?
I mean, I think gold is very interesting. First of all, we all Indians are always short golds. Yeah, we have to understand that when I'm short means I'm saying short means we have to buy, because we have to buy every time, whether your marriage or kid or whatever. So we keep buying.
Of
When we
course,
keep
yes.
buying something means we are short, right? We have
Yeah.
to buy. So we are short gold. So we always better off being invested in gold. Secondly, I mean, history is very clear that gold has given fantastic returns now. If you
Even more so now in the past few years.
even more so now, right? I mean, you're probably exceeding the Nifty as well.
Yes.
The third thing is that since see, US dollar has been the global currency for a very long period, But now it's not that US dollar was always the global currency, right? Before that it was pound sterling, before it was something else. It changes. And right now there are a lot of talks around that, US dollar may not remain the global.
Gold standard.
Yeah, yeah. What do you do in that, right? I mean, what is an alternative? There's no alternative. You can't think of China, you can't think of UK, you can't think of Europe, because they're all,
They're all
yeah,
struggling
right.
themselves. Yeah.
Yen, India is too small. I think gold is standing out in that. A lot of central banks are actually diversifying, and that's the reason, one of the big reasons why the gold
Correct.
is doing so well. So I think more so now, and for the fact that we Indians are usually short gold, that we always want to buy gold, and gold is real. I'm a big believer that you should be invested in gold. Now, whether that how much it should be, up to individual, but I think anywhere between, I mean, it should not be too much as well, but I
Exactly.
think anywhere up to 10% is what you should always keep in mind, that you should be keeping, whether it is physical or a lot of ETFs are there,
Yeah.
up to
Yeah.
you, but I think you should be invested in gold.
Okay.
Though, I mean, I'm not saying what to do now. I think it's gone up a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And the current market situation, it's extremely volatile, What does an investor do in times like these? Should they look at rebalancing their portfolio? Should they look at sort of making some changes, or should they just wait and watch? What
Yeah,
is
so if
your
you yeah,
opinion?
if you look at India, the Indian markets peaked in October last year, right? And since then, it's been coming
Pretty volatile.
off. And the primary reason initially was because markets had gone up too much, and the earnings were not coming in line with what markets were pricing in. So earnings were a little slower then. So, ultimately over a long period of an equity market should go in line with the
Should
earnings.
catch up eventually.
So initially it was because of that. The recent fall, which we all seeing, is nothing to do with India, right? It's to do
Global
with global, right? Which is basically Trump decided to put a huge
tariffs.
amount of tariff to everybody. Now, if you look at just the tariff part, right, while the correction, the valuation correction kind of has gone through largely, I would say. The tariff, actually, India is standing out as a beneficiary on the margin. While of course India is also, they've put up whatever
More tariffs,
26%, but
exactly. But
at the margin we are
better off as compared to.
better off than rest of the people,
Yeah.
barring one or two industries. And now Trump is a deal maker, right? He is looking for a deal, right? I mean, they're of course driven by their own debt issues, the whole thing. But how long this is going to be there, nobody knows. Whether he's going to say come tomorrow tonight, because
He does
tonight
that
he may say,
whenever he likes.
okay,
Yeah.
barring China, I'm postponing rest for 90 days or whatever days or whatever, because they're all coming to do a deal with me.
Correct.
They all are lined up to do a deal with me. So that can happen. uh, but point is, I don't know what is going to happen, right? So we are cautiously optimistic, given that markets have corrected a lot, given that India will not be too severely impacted because of the tariff, given that the government is showing all the inclination to do a deal with US, and given that Modi and Trump have a great relationship. So, hoping that the deal should come through in whenever it'll come through. And of course the levels are interesting, so we are optimistic on the market.
So you feel like just wait and watch what happens,
I mean,
as
wait
opposed
and
to
watch,
taking
but
drastic steps.
wait and watch, and I would say, you can start dipping in, start putting in some money.
Staggering.
Yeah, you can start doing that, I think, because you don't know when
But there's
the
no
bottom.
reason to panic and sort of pull out of your
No.
portfolio. That's not something that
History
you think
says that
should be
when the
done.
markets are down 20-30%, the
Best time to buy.
subsequent returns are always positive. The history says that.
Right.
So you should never sell. Never sell at this level.
Right.
Unless you have a liquidity issue, then it's a very different.
Of course.
If you don't need the money, don't sell. Let
Yeah.
the money work for you.
What would you advise young professionals who are looking at making a career in finance, who are, who've just graduated, looking at building a career in finance? What is a piece of advice that you'd give them?
Yeah, I mean, of course, finance is very, very interesting world. It's a very big world. It's growing. It'll continue to grow in India. I would also suggest young guys to actually have some real world experience as well.
Okay.
If you want to do a startup, try and do that, or you want to do work in a company, understand how those companies work. Because especially if you want to be part of the equity market, it's very important to know how the businesses are built, what it takes to run a successful business, how do you want to look inside the business when you are looking at a particular company. So if you've worked in some of those companies, it'll help you. So great to for people to think about finance, and definitely it's a very exciting world, and it's a very big world, and it's going to grow. But have a bit of a real life experience as well. Work in a manufacturing company for a couple of years, or work in any industry, which is large part of the I think India manufacturing will continue to grow huge in whatever next decade or so, given whatever I mean, whatever net effect of Trump is trying to do, I think trend towards deglobalization is going to be more real than whatever you can think of. So, and India is a very large domestic economy, so you'll always need a lot of manufacturing. Work in some of those things, see how those works, how when you work, you will know the good and the bad. So when you will evaluate later those companies, you will know what is good and bad. So I think I would suggest them to spend some time there, and then come and do work here. I think everybody need to know what AI is. I think everybody need to know prompt engineering is, because AI is all about how do you create those prompts and tell AI those give those prompts to AI, and then only it'll give back those results. I think that is general, not just for finance. I think that is general for any. I think they should spend some time and start using those tools,
Right.
because it'll become very useful any business or anything you do
Absolutely.
in your life. And of course, if you want to be in finance, then learn finance, right? I mean, take those courses, understand, read balance sheet. How do you read a balance sheet? What is a financial model is? Understand global markets. Start reading Economic Times,
Yeah. So
right?
many people always ask us actually that how should we start? How do I
Start reading
learn?
paper.
Exactly. This
Yeah,
is this
yeah,
is the answer that Sally and me give
yeah,
them. Open Money Control,
yeah,
open Economic Times,
yeah,
and there you
yeah,
mint.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
it.
yeah,
Just read.
yeah, yeah,
That's the best
yeah.
starting point, I think.
So I think prepare yourself for
Yeah.
this world, and
Yeah.
then you'll know. I mean, like equity is more micro in nature, so you have to understand companies. Fixed income, which I did earlier, is more macro in nature, where you need to understand macro. You need to understand what inflation
Interest
is.
rates,
You need to
inflation.
understand GDP growth. How does it work? Need to understand FX.
Hmm.
FX is always relative, right? It's one versus other. It's not
Correct.
absolute. Understand how those commodities. So you have to understand all that if you want to become if you want to become an expert, you need to be understanding all this. So I think
Right.
you need to invest in that
Right.
time.
Right.
Yeah.
And what would you tell a young professional who wants to start building their portfolio? A lot of people aren't from the field of finance,
Yeah.
but they have been earning for a couple of years. Now they're thinking about saving and investing. How should they start building a portfolio for themselves for the long term?
Yeah. So I think, first of all, stop doing anything hearsay, right? Where, is, oh, my friend told me to buy this and I buy this. That is never a good idea, right?
Absolutely, I can
Because
vouch for that.
everybody tells you what to buy, nobody will tell you when to sell.
Absolutely.
Right? You'll never know. So do research.
Yeah.
If you really interested in, do your own research. You should know. Say, for example, you want to invest in HDFC Bank. You should know what HDFC Bank. What do they do?
Correct.
What kind of branch banking they have? What kind of online presence they have? Why HDFC Bank? Why not say ICICI? Why not Kotak?
Industry. Why not?
So invest time, do research. There are enough tools available to do. Look at the numbers, right? Don't buy at any
Price.
price. Look at the numbers. You need to understand when you're looking at banking whether you should look at P, you should look at price to book. You should what do you understand those things. So spend time, do some research about a company. Try and best thing is that if you're using a product and then you're looking at the company, it's easier for you that because you've used a product, you like the product, then you look at go deep into there are enough tools available to look at the financials, and read what's coming in newspaper, and once you buy, you keep a tab, right? Because while HDFC Bank is not the right example, but there are many companies, they don't sustain the business for too long, right? Business go through the cycles, right? Every business become matured, Once you become matured, growth will slipper, and markets, beat those companies heavily. So then you have to be on top of everything, right? What phase the company? Are they expanding? Are they growing? Not growing? What P should I buy? What price to book? Not PG ratio. I mean, there are many variables into it, so you have to really spend time. And if you can't do all of this, just give it to some professional.
Correct.
There are enough available.
Absolutely.
I tell it, if people ask, I mean, there are enough mutual funds available. They're a very cheap way of accessing the market. They're professionals. They're doing it. You have a decent money. There are enough PMS or managers like us who manages the money.
Absolutely.
So then you give it to professional. If you otherwise, you have to spend your time.
Spend time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. There's no shortcut.
Absolutely. What is a good money habit to have, especially in your early days, that you can start cultivating so that that becomes a part of your system?
Start investing as soon as you can. As soon as you can, right? Just open an account, start investing wherever, be it mutual fund or whatever it is. Just start investing as soon as you can, because as we spoke, right, compounding comes with time. You start investing, then it will instigate you to save more, because since you have to invest, you have to need money, so you'll have a saving culture will come automatically. But it has to start by first starting to invest. So whatever, whether open a demat account or open a mutual fund account, whatever you want to do, but start as soon as you can. I think if people can get that part right, rest will follow, because everybody learns with experience, right? You make few wrong trades, and you probably fourth one will not be wrong, maybe three you will do wrong.
Correct.
Or if you see that whatever I'm doing is working for me, then you know that what works for you, so maybe you will do more. But for that you have to start. So just start.
Right.
I think that's one thing I'll say.
I know that you have two daughters.
Yeah.
Is having a money conversation, is it a dinner table conversation? Is it easy for you to talk about money with them? Do they sort of understand what you're saying? Do they reciprocate? Are they also like interested to learn more and more about finance? Because I'll tell you why I'm asking you this. When I was growing up, when I was like 16, 17, I think, that's when my parents really started talking to me about like saving and investing. And, when I earned my first paycheck, I know that I was not happy about it, but my mom was like, we are putting this in a mutual fund straight away. So I think it happens at an early age. And if it becomes normal at an early age to have these conversations, it becomes much easier going forward for you to sort of do this. It comes to you very naturally then. It's not like, oh my God, I have to save, oh my God, I have to invest. It becomes a part of the process. So tell me a little bit about how you've dealt with it with your daughters.
Yeah, so first of all, I'm not good as your dad is, so we didn't have those conversations when they were that way young. Now I'm trying to have those conversations, because my elder one is going to, I mean, she worked in between, and then she did an MBA, and now she's going to join job again. Now I'm forcing her, so basically I got her to open an account and prompting her. I mean, but she doesn't
Everyone
listen.
has a mind of their own.
She doesn't listen to me on this, and neither she does anything on her own. So I think it's a great idea to do that, what your parents did with you. I think every parent should sit down with their kids to have those conversation on the dinner table or whatever table, and educate them, and probably incentivize them to do something.
Absolutely.
Give them some money to play around.
Yeah.
Let them make mistakes. Let them learn on their own. And but I didn't do it. I'm trying to do it now. I think it's still okay to do it now,
Sure.
because
I
the
think
daughter's just
any time
joining.
is the right time to start.
Just starting to earn. I
Yeah.
mean, before that, they would have asked me the money. So so. But I think it's important to have this conversation, and I'm glad that your parents did that to you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I think this is my last question for you. But what does success really mean for you, and what kind of a legacy do you hope to leave behind?
I think the meaning of success changes with as you progress in your life, right? Initially, it was money, then it was promotions, then it was role, and now, I mean, for me, right now, what success would mean is, and I'm talking about professional success, so leaving the personal part, because you also, with age, you try to distinguish between what is a personal success and what is a professional success. So, talking about professional success, for me, and since I'm part of this quest, I would be very happy that both me and Jebhai will be very happy that quest will outlast us. Basically, we're trying to build an institution which can last too long, right? I mean, as we all know, the death rate in corporate world is very short, and people die too young. We don't want that. I mean, this company has already done 33 years, so we've shown that we can last longer, and thanks to Ajay bhai and the team here, I would love this company to keep going even when we are not there. So I think that would be success to me. That we have right now, we're about 38, 39 people. Probably we grow, we go up to whatever 100, 200, whatever employees. They are happily working here, and people would love to join us. This becomes a great place to work. I think that will be success for me.
Absolutely amazing. This
Yeah.
was such a great
Uh,
conversation to have.
Thanks.
I'm glad that you could come on the show and have this chat with us.
No, thank you, Niyati, and thank you for inviting me. I love the conversation as well. I also learned a lot, both about you and about myself as well. So thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed this episode. Tell us in the comments what you liked about it and whom we should invite on the show next. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you in the next one.